All right, we are recording. Emily, are we not going to see your face today? I can get my glasses out.
No, you will. I'm just going to go brush my hair into a ponytail. It won't lay flat.
All right, so how far along are you guys on your dragonfly? I see Addie's working pretty. Ooh, Kinley, nice. I am not quite that far along. I have broken yet 3 more needles this week. I decided I don't like these self-threading needles. I don't like them. Are you going to say something? Addie, you look like you're going to say something.
Needle just popped out of my thread.
Oh. Kinley wins the prize for being the most ahead of everybody this week. Good job. Show me the back of your threading. Nice. Addie Moore. Girl, you don't have your belly button or your wings, but your back looks nice. Let me see the back. Hold it up real close to your camera. Hold it up close. Nice. Good job. All right. Is Emily still with us, or does she walk away? Hey, Mama Moore.
Hi. Did you get her for not having it done yet?
Yeah. I'm video shaming her. I shouldn't be doing that. What's she been doing? Sleeping or what?
We got 2 really ornery lanes.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Well,
Our lanes
Addie,
are absolutely crazy, aren't they, Sissy?
I know life is crazy right now. Well, this is supposed to be relaxing and stress-free, so I'm trying to not make it too stressful on her. But I'm gonna tweak your ears.
We appreciate it. It's been lots of fun.
Good. So let's see. Emily, do you want to share with Kinley how you guys are doing your 4-H project? What are you guys calling it? A fair? Is that what you're calling it? No, you're calling it something else.
It's like the little festival thing we
Festival, yeah. So do you want to explain to her what she would need to do in order to enter this in your festival?
So this year, since we're not having Cloverville, I have to talk to Alex if she's wanting to still gonna want to follow the requirements for the classes and everything.
Okay.
You would probably you could probably frame it, Kinley, or you could turn it into something. And I know you can, you've done it, you've turned it into a pillow before, but if you think of something else you'd want to do, like you could frame it or do something really cute with it that you could do and enter it into the festival. Because this year with all the state fair stuff, it's a little different, but we're still going to do that. But we'll end up scheduling a time where you and your family can either come in and look at your stuff, or we're going to go around with the camera and kind of virtually do it on Facebook.
Okay. I was talking to Alex. I thought you guys had more details. I'm sorry I threw you out under the bus there.
No, you're good. No, and then we're also doing boxes and stuff for you guys to come get projects, and then you can turn the projects back into the festival.
Okay. Good deal.
Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. The way Alex talked, maybe it's all like in Alex land. All the details are worked out. You know, I work like that.
She has it all figured out, and then I get told it. She's the brains. I just make the flyers.
Yeah. Kinley, take that for what it's worth, I guess, and wait for a remind from Miss Alex, I guess.
Sorry, Kinley.
That's all right. So on a normal year, whatever normal is anymore, even with the printed cross-stitch kits, once you get all your stitches done, you can't just enter that into the fair. It has to be some sort of final product. Like Emily said, you can frame it, you can put an edging on it and make it like a little wall hanging, or you can put edging on it and put a back on it and stuff it and make a pillow. It'd be really cute as just a little, you know, like a little table decoration if you wanted to, but it has to be finished some way. So, you know, obviously you're not going to turn it in with this icky looking painter's tape on it. So Addie, when you get yours done, because I'm going to see it at our project showcase, right? Yes. Shake your head. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'll give more details about that, but Addie, our dates to enter our projects for our 4-H showcase, project showcase, because we're not doing them at the fair like we have in the past. And, you know, there's no Cloverville this year, so there's no competition to go to the state level, but we are still going to do like a project showcase. So still working on the details of that. But the entry date for that will be here at the office on July the 29th. And then there's some online stuff you have to do. So once I get all those details, I'll send it out to everybody. But you'll be able to enter this in the fair. And since it's kind of a quick turnaround time, I don't think I'm going to require at the county level for it to be a finished project, but if you could frame this so it's nice. And then once we're able to get back together and have meetings and be able to be close enough to each other so I can help you with your stitching, then we'll come back and we can put some fabric on it and finish it. And if you want to turn it into a wall hanging or a pillow or something like that, we can work on that later. Okay. All right. So, really, guys, there's not a whole lot to talk about today because you've gotten the basis down. And like I said, Kinley wins because she's the furthest ahead. Emily, you didn't show us your project. Where do you stand on yours? Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm probably further behind than Addie on it.
Are you?
So good, Addie. I've been putting camp bags, so I
Oh,
see
yeah.
my wings and
Oh,
stuff.
there you go. There you
But
go.
my back, I'm pretty happy with the back of mine. Other than
Oh, yeah.
needing to trim that.
Ooh, that looks like the shape of Kentucky.
Oh,
So
does it? Oh, it does.
It does a little weird. Yeah, yeah.
Total
All right.
wing.
Natty, you know we're just teasing. We're just picking on you because we can and we love you. That's why we're picking. So,
And you probably are further than I am.
she is. She's got her body. She's got her whole. She's out.
Yeah, I don't have that done, Addie.
Awesome. Well, life happens, you know. So.
There's like a blue border there. Like you can't see it, but there's like a
Yes.
blue border.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Kinley. So, on your fabric. So Kinley pointed out. Let me get my styrofoam tray to help provide some backing on this. There we go. So just like Kinley pointed out, it's a really, really fine line, like up here. So like if you see the line right there. So if you were to, that's the line where you're going to trim off the extra fabric if you were to take this and turn it into something else. Okay. And then you'll also see, let me get it focused. Where's mine? My square. Okay. So here's my square or my triangle that I finished. That's a little hard to see, isn't it? You'll notice in front of, kind of on the inside around the dragonfly. Can you guys see? Can you see this little line right here? You don't have to stitch on that line. I think that's just to, like if we were, because this is a pattern for a quilt. So if we were to take this and add fabric and then quilt it, that's the line that we would sew on to quilt this piece. So if you're going to do some sort of pillow and you want to quilt it, then leave that on there. You don't have to put any floss there at all. Or if you want to go back and do like a back stitch border in a contrasting color, you can do that as well. So yes, ma'am. Addie has a question.
I just broke my only needle.
Oh no. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
I'll send you some more needles.
Okay.
When can your mama come by? Next week? Do you know what? I'll put them in your activity bag for next week.
Okay.
When she gets it. When she comes by to get that, they'll just be inside there, okay?
Okay.
Oh, I guess you're off the hook for now. Does your mom have any hand sewing needles at home?
Don't think so.
Okay. Well, you're off the hook for a little bit then. All right. Sue Ellen and I are actually working on the bags for next week, so I'll put a packet of needles in there for you, okay? Make myself a note. Emily, can you help me remember, did I send out the link to the video from last week's meeting? Did I do that or no? I can't remember.
I thought you did, but I can check real quick. I have my email on the
It
side.
just kind of hit my brain if I'd sent that out or not. So anyway, Kinley, back to your question. That little line, any little extra lines that you see, if they're lines inside the 4 triangles, you can go ahead and do other or other floss if you want to add a little decorative color, but you don't have to. Any lines that you see outside of the triangles, you definitely don't want to stitch, because when you finish this product, this piece, you're going to cut that fabric off. So you essentially be cutting off your stitches. So
I don't have the link to it. I don't have it in mind, so I don't know if
I think I
you
would.
might have sent it to just Alex or.
Oh, I
I'm not
may have not done it. That's what I want. I think I got crazy busy. Let me look real quick. No, wrong. What the heck? Addie, did you? Oh, never mind. She's gone. Where am I going? What are some other questions that you guys have about this project? We are going to talk about the next little project that you were given too. Obviously, we're not going to work on that today, but let me look. Oop, wrong folder, guys. Sorry. Videos. 2, 3. So I have 1, 2, and 3. Week 4 we didn't meet, so I didn't do week 5. Okay, so I'll make sure I'll work on those this weekend and send them both to you, 5 and 6. So last week and this week. Okay. Sorry about that. I guess I just lost track of everything. So.
You're good.
All right.
Everything's crazy.
Yeah, I know. So you guys will have actually 2 choices for your fair project for this year, or you can use your Dragonfly. But again, that's kind of been our practice piece. And it depends on when your showcase day is, or your festival, and if you have time to get all that done. But the other items, I want to go over the other items in your kit real quick. Now, initially, my thought was after all of this pandemic stuff is over and we could get back together, that we would get together and take this second kit that you received and actually sew them together and turn it into a quilt. Well, we've had 2 issues. One, we really needed 12 people, because if you guys look through the little squares, that's what it's supposed to look like when we get the little quilt done. Unfortunately, the 2 of you, not unfortunately, that sounds bad. Unfortunately, everyone else that signed up has kind of dropped off the face of the earth. So fortunately, you guys have stuck with us and have been able to learn these processes. So the likelihood of us being able to have 12 quilt blocks to do an entire quilt. Uh-oh, Addie looks different. She's all grown up now.
I'm sitting in for a minute.
All righty. So the idea of getting together after we finish the animal quilt blocks, it's probably not going to pan out, because we can't really have a quilt with 5 squares. So that means you have a second project. So like I have the frog. I'm out of sorts today. I'm sorry. So I have the frog pattern. And you guys, Kinley, you had what was your animal that you had?
Cat.
The cat. And then Addie had
Bear.
the bear. And Emily
And I have a penguin.
Oh, that's right, Dana. I forgot about you. Has she been teaching you what to do? I forgot about that.
Have the
Slowly
monkey.
but surely.
Slowly but surely. Well, we all have time, that's for sure. So anyway, with your second project, since we're not going to be able to get together, I don't think anytime soon, to be close enough to where we can help each other with hand stitching. So that animal project kit that you have, is the next thing that you can start to work on, and maybe get it done in time for fair. So depending on your animal, so for example, the frog, my frog pattern, does everybody still have their animal pattern? Okay, so on my frog pattern, just on the frog where he's peeping over the blanket, I'm going to use a satin stitch, a stem stitch, and a cross stitch. So as far as we're concerned, we've learned how to do a cross stitch. A stem stitch is a little bit different. These are all of these different stitches are in your Beginning Creative Stitchery book. Oh yes, there we go, Kinley. Do you have your instructions? Do you have your patterns? I'm sure it's in there somewhere. So if you look at your pattern, what types of stitches are you going to have to do on your animal? I told you I have 3. What do you all have? That's it.
Satin stitch, a seam stitch, and a cross stitch.
Okay, so satin, stem, and cross stitch. Kinley's still looking. Kinley, it would have been a little small piece of paper like this, babe. And if you can't find it, I have the originals. I can, oh, there you go. Okay, so what kind of stitches do you have for your animal?
Satin stitch, stem stitch, and cross stitch.
Cross stitch, stem stitch, and back stitch?
Cross stitch.
Cross stitch. Okay. Can you say them again really loud? I only heard cross stitch. It's a little hard to hear you, babe.
Satin stitch, stem stitch, and cross stitch.
Okay. Satin stitch. Okay, so Emily, is that what yours has? Do you have your stuff in front of you?
Let me go grab it real quick.
Okay. I think they're all pretty much the same. So for the satin stitch and the stem stitch, you are going to need to do a little self-teaching using this Beginning Creative Stitchery book, okay? So if you look in your publication on page 5, it tells you how to do a stem stitch. And sometimes it's called an outline stitch. So it might be very similar to the back stitch that we've been doing. So if you think about the back stitch, how we've been doing it, when we did the back stitch, we did the stitches where the stitches touched end to end, right? Like this. So if you think about our back stitch, the stitches touched, okay? On a stem stitch, you're going to, they kind of overlap a little bit. So if this is a back stitch and your ends touch each other, your stem stitch, they kind of overlap a little bit. Does that make sense? Did you guys find that in your book on page 5? Now I do really, really recommend for you guys, let me look at, I don't think this other one has it, no. I do recommend, if I'm a visual person, I need to see something. I can't just read the instructions. I have to read the instructions. I have to hear it. I have to do it. I really recommend that you guys just go online and just Google stem stitch embroidery, and I bet you can find a video. Actually, we might look for one here real quick and watch it. So keep that in mind. So it's almost like an outline, but it overlaps just a little bit. Then for your the satin stitch is shown on page 7 of this publication. And the satin stitch really fills in the space. It fills in space. So on my pattern, the satin stitch is going to be just the inside dots of my frog eyes. Do you guys see that? And so the satin stitch is going to go from one, like if it's an oval, It's going to go completely around, but you're going to go back and forth across the oval. And all of your stitches need to touch. Let me figure out where I am. All of your stitches need to touch, and they're going to line up side by side, so it fills in that space. So you're basically, it's like coloring. You're coloring, but you're using floss instead of crayons on that. So how much satin stitching do you guys have on your animal patterns?
Only the eyes.
Just the eyes? Okay. So that won't be too big. That won't be too big. Then on the next little section, so those are the stitches to do your animal. And then your other piece of paper attached to that shows you the blanket part. So if you look at your project, and I love these because the stitches are so big. So you have your animal, and then the animal, it's like they're laying in bed and they have a blanket put over top of them. That's what the hearts and all the little squares are underneath, okay? It's like they have a blanket on them, like a quilt. So all of our blankets will look the same. So on that one, you're going to do a stem stitch and you're going to do a cross stitch, okay? Now if you look at your hearts, so you have 4 hearts. Whoops, I can't work backwards. You have 4 hearts. They're all the same size, but what's the difference between those 4 hearts on this pattern? And you may have to look up here in your key to tell you the answer.
They're different colors.
Addie?
They've all got like one's full, one's dotted, one's lightly dotted, and then the other one's like lined.
Okay. So you're looking here on your key. They each have different types of lines, right? And then what's next to it? Right, Kinley, I thought you said it. What's the difference? How are those? Are they going to look the same or are they going to look different?
Different colors.
They're going to look different because you've got your numbers here, and each of these numbers represent what? Different colors. Different colors of floss, right? So if we look at this heart right here, the one that's really thick, what color is that going to be?
809.
809. So fine. Do you guys have 809? You should. Oh, wait a minute. I may have changed it on the chart. Hang on. A blanket. Actually, no, it's not 809. It would be 813. So everybody's going to use 813. So we do have a little housekeeping to take care of. Do you guys have the color chart available? Okay. All right, good deal. So on your pattern, let's go back. Remember the first when we first started, we had to go back and match up our colors. Let's do that really quick, okay? So you should have in your kit color 726. And 726 is what color? $726 is a yellow color. Everybody has yellow? Awesome. Okay, so we don't have to change that one. All right, 809 is really 813. So mark out 809. Mark out 809 and right next to it 813 so you'll remember what color you're supposed to use. All right. 813. Okay, I'm getting my stuff outlined too as well. Okay, so 809, you should mark on your paper that it's really 813 now. And then color 913 is really 954, which is this green color. Okay, whoops. All right, and then your final color is 3806. You should have that one in your kit, and it's a pink color. Can't get my bearings with this camera today. Okay, so we have 726, which is yellow. We have 813, which is blue. We have 954, which is green, and then 3806, which is pink. So those are just for the blanket portion of your project pattern down here at the bottom, just this blanket part, okay? So you have separate colors for your animal. So what I want you guys to take just a real quick second to do is flip back to your animal pattern. And I want to make sure, using your color chart, okay, so you have your animal pattern, you have your color chart. Go back and find the colors that go with your animal kit, okay? And if you need to change them, because I changed them on the color chart, mark that on your pattern, okay? Everybody understand? Okay, good deal. And I did a search for stem stitch embroidery, and there are 6,770,000 videos on stem stitching. So I'm pretty sure you can find a video. Oh my goodness, who even knew? That's crazy.
I don't have 971, and when I go on here and go across, there's an X on cat.
Okay, so you have the puppy, right? No, you have the cat. So 971, if there's an X, then you should have 971 in your kit. Addie, did you have all your colors? Okay, good. Did you make the changes on your papers? Did you need to make any changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I ended up with a lot of extra colors somehow. I don't know what I was thinking. Did you find it, Kinley?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody squared away. I'm pretty excited to work on my little frog. He looks cute. All right, so I just did a basic Google search for stem stitch embroidery. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to watch this video real quick. And if it's horrible, we'll stop and we'll go to the next one, okay? So let's see, share. I want to share this. All right, you guys should be able to see a Google search now. And if you would, if you're not muted, go ahead and mute. That way we don't get feedback from the video, okay? Now, I still see myself, but you guys can see the YouTube video, right? Okay.
Taking a stitch length forward and coming back into the corner. It's a beautiful rope-like line. And it also takes tight curves. This is the stem stitch used in hand embroidery. It is a terrific outlining stitch. It makes a beautiful rope-like line. And it also takes tight curves very well, so it's excellent for detail work.
All right, real brief. Give me a thumbs up if you see where the stitches overlap, like I was talking about. You guys see where they overlap? Okay, good deal.
And it's such a versatile stitch that you can even use it for filling by working rows of stem stitch close together. And you can even achieve a shaded look by changing your shades. So the video today is a little bit long, but what I want to show you is the stem stitch worked all the way around this rectangle, keeping the twist of the stitch consistent and working sharp corners. So we're going to start by working from left to right on the base of the rectangle. You want to start by taking a stitch length forward, then bringing your needle up about halfway between the beginning and the end of the stitch, keeping your working thread below the needle. Pull through. And now for your next stitch, you're going to go a stitch length forward. You're going to bring your needle up at the end of the previous stitch and pull through, always keeping your working thread below your needle while you're working from left to right. So pull through, go forward a stitch length, come up at the end of your previous stitch, keep the working thread below the needle and pull through. You can also use the sewing method by taking your fabric up in kind of one scoop and pulling through, as long as you keep your working thread below your needle. The sewing method goes very fast when you're working with stem stitch. So we're coming to the end of the line into the corner here. And you'll notice that I can still take one more stitch, and it's going to be a tiny stitch into that corner. And I'm doing that on purpose. I want to keep the thickness of the line consistent all the way to the end of the line. And now we're ready to move up the right side of the rectangle. So we're going to bring the working thread up a stitch length away, and we're going to go back down into the corner. And this is how you achieve a sharp tip or a sharp corner or a sharp turn with the stem stitch. Now we're keeping the working thread to the right of the needle as we work up the right side of the rectangle. And if you imagine that you're still working then it makes sense that the working thread needs to be to the right of the needle. And that's a good way to remember where the working thread should be in relation to the needle, by just imagining that you're stitching from left to right. So we're going to work all the way up the side here, bringing the needle up at the end of the previous stitch, and working up towards the corner, keeping the working thread to the right of the needle. Now we're ready to go into the corner with another small stitch. We're going to take a last stitch, relatively small, right into the corner, keeping the thickness of that line consistent. Now you want to move forward a stitch length at the top, and then back into the corner to make the squared corner. Now as we work from right to left, we're going to keep the working thread above the needle. And left-handed stitchers should recognize this, because this is how the left-handed stitcher would normally make the stem stitch. So you're going to work from left to right across the top. And when you're working from left to right, you keep the working thread above the needle. So going forward, coming up at the end of the previous stitch, the working thread is above the needle, pulling through, and working over to the end of the top of the rectangle. So there we go. And one more tiny stitch into the corner finishes that. So let's look at what we have. Notice that the twist on these stitches is the same all the way across here, all the way across the base, and going up the side, and across the top of the rectangle. Now we're going to work down the left side of the rectangle, taking a stitch length forward and coming back into the corner, coming up halfway between the beginning and the end of the stitch, and keeping the working thread to the left of the needle. So forward, the needle comes up, the working thread is to the left. We're going to work down the line this way. Now there are a couple other considerations when you're talking about stem stitch, but and one of those is the twist of the thread that you're using, but you'll have to visit the blog to read about that. So there you go. Coming back down into the corner. Up, pull through, and the last stitch, straight into that last corner, and that is it. So let's look at what we have. You can see that the twist is the same all the way around the box because we kept the thread in the right place in relation to the needle. That's the stem stitch. Stop by and visit me at Needle and Thread for more tips and tricks on hand embroidery.
Okay, so that is cool that we watched that whole video, because if you go back and you look at your blanket pattern, all of those outlines are stem stitch. Okay, so the stars and the diamonds and the hashtags and the question marks are going to be cross stitches. Then everything else is a stem stitch, which is what she just showed. So you're going to have lots of chances on this pattern to practice those sharp corners that she was just talking about. Okay? Now let's look for the satin stitch. Okay, let me share this one. All right, you guys should be able to see the YouTube video. Thumbs up if you can see it. Good deal.
So many firsts are happening as we speak.
And we're going to watch a commercial
school
first.
is home, and home is school. First time working out in your living room gym. First time having happy hour online.
All right.
To do a satin stitch, I first like to draw some directional lines to show me which way my stitch is going to be going. That's especially helpful if you're doing a curved shape like a flower petal. But you start by bringing your thread up through the back, and all you're going to be doing is you're going to be coming in from the back on one side and then going down into the fabric on the other side over and over again until you've filled in the shape. And so what I first like to do when I start stitching is break the satin stitch up into sections. Again, this is really helpful if you are doing a curved shape. So I'm just going to stitch over each of these directional lines. And then what I like to do is go back in between each of these sections and split them in half again with another stitch. And all this does is it helps me keep my stitches more even. You don't have to do it this way, but I struggled with the satin stitch for a long time and this really helped. And then once you finish that section, you can start on another section. And then just keep going like that. Another little helpful tip for doing the satin stitch or any stitch when you're filling in a large shape like this, you want to be consistent with where you're stitching. So I like to stitch just slightly outside of the line here. So this is my line of what I'm filling in. And if you stitch just outside of it every single time, then you'll get more of a consistent look. So whatever you prefer, either on the line or just outside of it, just make sure you're consistent so that you'll get a smoother line when you're finished. And that is how you do a satin stitch.
Okay. Oh, that's too long. So you can see here, there's all different types of satin stitches. So that's what it's going to do, is you're just going to be filling in that space. I like that one right there. Looks like a clover, a little tail. Okay. So luckily for us, I think we decided, or we figured out, that we're only doing the satin stitch on the eyes. So that won't be too big of a space. So we should be good to go there. Oops, let me move everything back over. All right. So any questions about the stem or the satin stitch? Do you guys think you can handle those? I think you can. I did like where she took the little, the square on the satin stitch and broke it into smaller parts. I don't think you're necessarily going to have to do that with our eyeballs because they're not that big. Okay. All right, any questions? I have really enjoyed this. It's been challenging trying to teach a handcraft over the computer, but everybody's learned something, right? Yeah, yeah. Addie, what do you think? What do you think about what we've done so far? What have you learned? Are you going to keep working on your projects? What do you think? Make sure you unmute yourself. Oops.
I learned that there's many types of stitches. At first, I only thought there was one.
No, I thought there was just one.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to finish your project?
Yes.
You are? Good, good. All right, Kinley, what about you? What have you learned? What did you like? What do you think you'll do with all this?
Yes.
But I haven't done it yet. Oh, and the knot thing. The knot on the antenna. What's it called?
Hattie, can you mute, please? And Kinley, speak up just a little bit, hon. I can't hear you.
I learned how to do that knot for the antenna.
The French knot?
Yeah.
You guys practice the French knot anymore?
I did the other one.
Yeah, on the dragonfly. Right. Miss Emily, what have you learned through this whole process? Thank you, Kinley.
If I learned that you can buy kits that already have the pattern on it, so that made me happy.
Yes. Yeah.
And then just working, like the videos you showed with the back stitch, it helped me because I struggled with the spacing. And then the French knot I always struggled with, so that helped me too.
Good, good. I've learned a lot about video production and
Zoom meetings.
Zoom meetings and how I teach. So it's been different, but I like that we have the YouTube videos. That's helpful. So I will work
Thank
on.
you for letting us crash your class.
Oh no, I'm glad we could do it. Ladies, I will be sending you over email, and then Emily can share with Kinley just a really brief evaluation on this, because you guys know in Extension we always have to do some sort of little evaluation. Addie, I will put your cross-stitch goodie bag in your project kit bag for next week. Okay, so you'll have all that in your big backpack. Okay. All right, you guys have any other questions? Please make sure you let me see your final products when you get them done, okay?